Welcome back, everyone, to the Wolf King Brewing channel. I am your host, as always, Liam Wynn, and I made a beer with Fruity Pebbles, and you're just gonna have to deal with that. I don't know what to tell you. I know what you're thinking. Why? What do you, like, is this a brewing channel, or is this just Liam thinks of the weirdest shit he can possibly come up with and then relates it to brewing somehow? It might be the latter, to be honest with you, so just freaking buckle up, dude, because it's gonna be a bumpy ride. The second question that I know you have is he ever gonna stop wearing this hat? Probably not, to be honest with you. I wouldn't get my hopes up on that one. I'm gonna wear it 1,000 more times. But again, welcome back to another sort of experimental homebrew video. This is an idea that I had quite a while ago and really wanted to act out. Let me reel it back just a little bit here before I get too excited. The foundation by which beer is made and has been made for so many years and even maybe centuries is barley malt. Also commonly referred to by brewers as malt or grains or grain bill. You'll hear many different words that are all kind of colloquially used for the same thing, which is the base ingredient in beer, which is barley, malted barley more specifically. But that being said, you can use many other different kinds of grains that can be malted and gelatinized and converted. A lot of different grains can be used. You see rice, commonly used in Budweiser, for example, corn, and other different grains that can be used to do the same thing, essentially, to make a beer. This may surprise some of you, but the grains that are used as the base for cereal are not all that different than the grains used for brewing. You'll find a lot of cereal-like flavors when drinking certain malty beers. You'll get very bready, almost cereal-like taste. Of course, you don't get like the fruity, crazy sweetness because there's a ton of sugar in cereal. That being said, there's a ton of sugar in wort as well, which, if you don't know, is beer before it is fermented. So knowing this, please take into account that I am not the first person to do this, okay? Cereal has been included with the brewing process before by commercial breweries all throughout probably the world, but at least the United States. I've seen Fruity Pebbles beers, I've seen Cocoa Pebbles beers, I've seen Cookie Crisp stouts. You've seen it all. I think I spit a little bit just then. This is something that I really wanted to try on the homebrew scale, and I did it, and it's good. So I sort of devised a plan to use my cream ale base, which is a very simple base that I usually add vanilla to. I thought that would be a really good base for my Fruity Pebbles here. Why Fruity Pebbles of all the cereals? I don't know. Why are you watching this video? Is it because you like Fruity Pebbles and you want to see how I made them into a beer? Before I talk at all about how this beer actually came out, how it tastes, my impressions of it, let's go back in time to the brew day and talk about the recipe and the process and how I got to this final product. So I began my brew day as I normally would, which was weighing out the grains in my specified grain bill, which I'll place on the screen for those of you who it means something to. I then proceeded to mill or crush the grains to be used in my mash. While this was occurring, I went ahead and put my 15-gallon kettle on the burner and added my full volume of water. And as the water was being brought up to temperature, I went ahead and added the necessary chemicals to get to my desired water profile. Once the water was brought up to the appropriate strike temperature, I went ahead and submerged my bag filled with all of my grains to be mashed. Once the grains were thoroughly incorporated into the water and well stirred, I added those damn pebbles. I made sure to stir everything thoroughly to make sure all of the grains and cereal was having proper contact with the water to get good extraction efficiency, and then I covered my kettle for my 60-minute mash rest. Once that 60-minute mash was completed, I lifted the grain bag out of the water and began the process of squeezing the bag to make sure I got all of the sweet wort that was left over soaked into the grains. As the bag was draining fully, I lit my burner again to begin bringing the wort to a boil. I also took a sample at this time, and honestly, it was a really cool color. It smelled and looked really great. So far, I was surprised with how expressive the Fruity Pebbles actually were. Now, as the wort was being brought to a boil, I prepared my single hop edition, which was 1 ounce of Cascade hops to be boiled for 15 minutes. Now, you may realize if you brew beer or are familiar with beer recipe formulation that this is a very small amount of hops, relatively speaking. Hops, as we know, are very expressive and tend to dominate beers if you add a lot of them, especially late in the process. For this particular beer, I was very focused on the flavor that the Fruity Pebbles would add to the beer, so I decided to forego large hop additions for that reason. So with 15 minutes remaining in my 60-minute boil, I added the 1 ounce of hops the recipe called for, as well as submerged my wort chiller to make sure it was clean and sanitized for the cooling process. After the boil was complete, I took a gravity reading with my refractometer, which would tell me the amount of sugars in the wort pre-fermentation, which will enable me to do an equation to determine the amount of sugars turned into alcohol, thus determining the alcohol by volume later on. At this point, my brew day was all but finished, so I began chilling my wort with my copper wort chiller down to the desired fermentation temperature. I then transferred the chilled wort into my sanitized fermentation vessel, making sure to splash it around quite a bit, which will provide proper oxygen for the yeast during fermentation. Then I pitched my packet of liquid yeast straight into the fermenter, and the brew day was finished. Now, post-brew day, my fermentation schedule was very simple, and because I was pitching the Lutra Kvaik yeast from Omega Labs, I knew that I could ramp up the temperature pretty comfortably on this and get a quick and easy fermentation. So all in all, I fermented this at about 80 to 85 degrees over the course of about 5 days. After those 5 days were over, I tasted the beer, and it did have a very noticeable Fruity Pebbles-like aroma and flavor. Is really hard to explain, but it did taste like the cereal more so than I even thought it was going to. That being said, I can't help myself, man. So there was a little bit left in the box. There was just a little bit left, probably 4 or 5 ounces by weight. So I sprinkled them into a hop bag. You've seen them, I'll show you one. These muslin bags, it's like a sock almost. These hop bags, I threw like 4 or 5 ounces of just the dry cereal in this hop bag, sprayed it with some sanitizer and hucked it in the fermenter. Probably not the best sanitary practice. That being said, it came out okay, so I dodged a bullet. I essentially dry hopped though with about 4 or 5 ounces of the Fruity Pebbles cereal just to get a little bit more of the cereal character and to see really how much I could get them to express the character that the cereal already has. And I sort of wanted this to be like the milk at the bottom of a bowl of Fruity Pebbles, to be honest with you. But drinkable and still beer-like in certain ways. Now at this point, I went ahead and checked the gravity after fermentation was complete because I wanted to find out how much of my available sugars had been fermented by the yeast, thus doing the equation to determine the alcohol by volume in the final product. I'll post it on the screen as I always do, but the beer finished at 1011 or 1.011 or 11 gravity points depending on who you're talking to. But that gave it an alcohol by volume of roughly 6.5% depending on the equation that you use. So not bad. I went ahead and racked off of the yeast and away from the dry hopped Fruity Pebbles and into my keg. At this point, I added 2 ounces of vanilla extract. Now, you can use vanilla beans for this. There's lots of different ways you can get good vanilla character. I recommend if you're using extracts to just taste a bunch and find one that really works for you and gives you the character you want. This was the point when it really started to taste like a bowl of cereal, to be honest. It has like a very specific lemon lime kind of character. That Fruity Pebbles, to me, you get a lot of that sweet lemon and lime character, a little bit of like berry, but like candy kind of berry flavor. It's not a whole lot of fresh character in Fruity Pebbles, to be honest with you. Doesn't taste like fresh fruit, that's for sure. But that was really it. I mean, I didn't want to push the boundaries any further than that because I had a final product that tasted good for all intents and purposes. So I went ahead and burst carbonated at 35 PSI for the next 24 hours and boom, we are left with this. I canned the batch up about a month ago now, so it's a little older now and it's holding up. It does have a certain sweetness that I almost find cloying. It like borders right on the edge of like being too sweet. But if you're looking for something that tastes like the cereal tastes, but in a beer form, this is pretty damn close. Mashing with a pound of Fruity Pebbles, I think is probably gonna do it. But all things aside, I'm happy with how this came out. I like the way it came out. It's a very interesting beer, very unique. It's fun to drink and it's cool to share with people. I wish I could share this with all of you. I know there's gonna be a lot of interest for people out there who are not local to me who would love to try this. I wish I could distribute it to all of you, but I'm not an actual brewery. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm just some schmuck in a garage. And I do not have the license to sell or distribute this in any way. So I apologize. I can see the comments filtering through right now. How do I get some of this? How do I try this? ISO, ISO, ISO. I know, man. I know. Maybe you can make it at home for yourself. I'll post the recipe in the description below, and you can check out the link if you're a home brewer. It's not difficult. It is a very easy process, and it was rather quick as well. But I had a lot of fun with it, and it's a very unique beer. And at the end of the day, Kind of tastes like Fruity Pebbles, but it gets you drunk. So what's the problem? And now for the moment you have all probably not been waiting for, I'm gonna take this bowl of Fruity Pebbles, okay? There's actual Fruity Pebbles in here, swear to God. And I'm gonna pour this beer in it, and then I'm gonna eat at least a bite. I don't expect this to be pleasant at all. I can feel my stomach churning just thinking about this, but for the algorithm, I guess. I don't know, to the algorithm. It makes cool noises. Please, God, don't make me throw up on camera today. Though it would be good for impressions, I'm sure. Do you guys like dunk your cereal? I tend to punch it all down into the liquid, get every single piece wet before I take a bite. It smells so cursed. I don't know, man. Look, I don't usually do things this memey, but it's worth trying, right? At least once. Oh God, it's very fizzy on the tongue. It's not good. It's not good. I'm not gonna throw up, but I might throw up, to be honest, later. Washing it down with a different beer doesn't make it a whole lot better, to be honest with you. Well, so that's bad. I mean, so that's like gross, and you probably knew that was gonna happen, as did I. Dude, it's lingering. It coated like this, the back corners of my mouth with this like astringent, sharp. Dude, it's so horrible. What kind of chemical reaction just occurred that is making this taste? But that's it, man. I'm gonna dump this out. It's a damn shame. It's a waste of both good beer and good Fruity Pebbles, honestly. Drop a like and leave a comment down below in respect of the wasted Fruity Pebbles, and pour one out into your mouth in respect of the wasted beer. Thank you guys so much for watching. Any comments, drop them in the comment section below. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Just kidding. I'm not gonna eat any more of this. It's disgusting.